Very recently, I did a video on one of my favorite naked sports bikes, a torque monster, the Yamaha MT10 SP. And one of the biggest competitors of that motorcycle is this beast. It's called the Beast. It's the KTM Super Duke 1290. How do they fare with each other? Let's have a look. I am making this video because some of you viewers have actually asked for this comparison. And I do believe that this is a fair comparison between the Super Duke and the Yamaha MT10 SP because they are both very similar motorcycles. They have similar performance numbers, they are super nakeds, and they are both very thrilling motorcycles. But first, let's compare the numbers. Let's begin with the Yamaha MT10 SP. As a lot of you viewers already know that the MT10 SP is based on the Yamaha R1 inline 4, which is a 998cc double overhead cam 16 valves liquid cooled engine, giving out 164 bhp at 11,500 rpm and 112 Nm of torque or 83 foot-pounds at 9,000 rpm. The wet weight is 210 kilos or 462 pounds. Fuel tank capacity is 17 liters or 4.49 US gallons, and you can ride it for about 350 kilometers or 220 miles before it runs dry. Now let us look at the numbers of the KTM Super Duke 1290. For the sake of this video, we'll look at the 1290 version because I have not yet had the opportunity to experience the newer Super Duke, which is a 1390. The older outgoing model is a 1301cc liquid-cooled transverse 75 degrees V-twin engine with 4 valves per cylinder and a double overhead cam delivering 180 bhp at the crank and 140 Nm of torque or 103 foot-pounds, and it weighs in at just 196 kilos wet or 432 pounds. Right off the bat, we can clearly see that the MT10 SP has about 16 horses less than its competitor, the KTM Super Duke. The KTM Super Duke is also 14 kilos lighter. That's about 30 pounds lighter than the Yamaha. The fuel tank capacity of the KTM is at 16 liters or 4.2 US gallons, which is about 1 liter less than the Yamaha, giving you a slightly lesser range. Now, if you're looking at top speeds, both bikes would hit a top speed of around 275 to 280 kilometers an hour or over 170 miles an hour. These are street bikes. Reaching such top speeds and sustaining such high speeds over a period of time is not something that we are looking for. There would be too much of a wind blast on the rider's chest, seeing that there's little to practically no wind protection from either of these two motorcycles to be able to sustain such high speeds over a long period. It is more like a boasting number. It gives you bragging rights on paper and not much in real life. And if you're looking at sheer acceleration, both bikes do a 0 to 100 in under 3 seconds, which is already a handful even for experienced riders. Let's talk a bit about suspension. Both bikes come with phenomenal suspension. Both bikes have electronically controlled semi-active suspension. And in both motorcycles, the semi-active suspension works really well. It adjusts itself according to the road condition, weight of the rider, acceleration and deceleration, both front and rear, working in conjunction with the IMU, the inertial measurement unit in the motorcycle. And both bikes host a 6-axis inertial measurement unit. Suspension is really good on both bikes. The Yamaha MT10 SP comes with 3 different suspension settings dialed in, and you can also dial in your personalized, customized suspension setting as well, depending on your riding style. As far as braking goes, the KTM Super Duke has 320mm double discs in the front with radially mounted Brembo calipers and a 220mm disc at the rear. The master cylinder is a Brembo as well, and it has got very good braking combined with the inertial measurement unit. The Yamaha MT10 SP also has very good brakes, 320mm double disc at the front, 220 at the rear, with radially mounted calipers, steel braided lines and a Brembo master cylinder. Braking is razor sharp on the Yamaha MT10 SP as well. Braking on the Yamaha also works with the inertial measurement unit and gives you lean angle sensitive braking. You can regulate your braking from the TFT dash. How about the height of both motorcycles? Let me show you how I sit on both bikes. Sitting on the Yamaha MT10 SP is pretty comfortable. I'm 165 centimeters or 5 feet 6 inches tall, and I reach the ground pretty comfortably. The seat is nice and comfortable on the Yamaha. The handlebars are not a stretch, and I can sit on this motorcycle and ride it forever practically. The KTM Super Duke seating is pretty similar. It looks bigger and more intimidating, but somehow I reach the ground more comfortably. It sits as comfortable or as sporty as the Yamaha. Neither of them are too aggressive in their seating. However, I wish the KTM seat were a little more plush. That said, even on the KTM, I could ride all day long without getting tired. The Yamaha MT10 SP comes with a plethora of electronic rider aids and features. The KTM Super Duke also comes with a lot of rider aids and features, but a lot of them are accessible only if you buy the KTM Tech Pack, and the Tech Pack actually raises the price even further. Price is one important factor if you are choosing between the two bikes. The Yamaha MT10 SP, the most recent 2024 version, retails at $16,999, where the Super Duke Evo R, the outgoing version, retails at $20,399. That is nearly a $4,000 price differential. That can tilt the scales heavily in favor of the Yamaha. Some dealerships like Crossroad near Philadelphia is giving heavy discounts on some outgoing KTM models. There is very little to separate the two motorcycles. If you want to ask me, it's going to be a tough choice. I love both these motorcycles. I have a colleague with me, Dan Maychak, who's an expert on KTMs and has been a dirt bike racer for most of his life and has trained street riders on street racing. Let us hear what he has to say. What's your take between the MT10 SP and the Super Duke?
I think what Chris is trying to ask me is what is my opinion based on the MT10 SP versus the KTM Super Duke 1290. My opinion is strictly this. The Yamaha is going to be a little bit more refined, only in the sense that the 1290 is actually a beast. It's a fire-breathing dragon. It's a V-twin, so it's very abrupt. It's very hard hitting, but it's a lot more fun in that regard. The Yamaha being super fast, but maybe a little bit easier to ride. We used to do a lot of endurance road racing on an RC8RR, which was very fast, and we have some of our best lap times on that bike. We now race an R1, and it's just that much easier. Just as good of a lap time overall, but we get a lot more of that top lap time in an event than we do the KTM. It's just easier to ride.
If I were to give you a choice between buying the Super Duke R or the MT10 SP, which one would you buy?
Very biased to the KTM lineup, so I'm going to go with the KTM. But I am here to tell you, I would not be disappointed in any way owning this MT10 SP. Fabulous bike, great suspension, great look, awesome sound. These are all things that the KTM has. Again, just a little bit more refined. The Yamaha makes a better choice as far as an everyday street bike. Again, a little easier to commute on, a little easier to go long distance on. KTM's just a brute, and that's what it's supposed to be, and that's what it is. Let's dispel a myth about the KTM. People often say that KTM has reliability issues. That is bunkum. I really do not believe so. Honestly, there are very few KTM bikes that come to our service department to get repaired. That itself is proof enough that the KTM bikes are pretty reliable. They're both extremely good and very reliable motorcycles. The KTM Super Duke and the Yamaha MT10 SP would keep you extremely happy and smiling for a very long time. My take would be there would be two deciding factors on which bike to choose between the two. Number one being the price. The price could be a deal breaker for the KTM, but then someone who rides a KTM or is a KTM fan would prefer to go for the Super Duke over the Yamaha. However, if you're price conscious, it is a no-brainer. Number two would be the looks. I would suggest that if you like the KTM, go for the KTM. And if you like the Yamaha, go for the Yamaha. You cannot go wrong with either. KTM motorcycles tend to be a little more expensive than their competitors. Also, to unleash some of the features, you have to buy the tech pack. The Yamaha is a complete package in itself. Which one would you like? I'd like to know your comments. Put your comments in the comment section down below, and I'll be replying to your comments. And I'll be seeing you in the next one. Until then, ride safe.